Yo, fam. So it's another late night uh, faux streaming kind of scenario here for me. Me and Cal are hanging out, and I'm finally going to do a long-awaited review of an item that was gifted to me via Amazon gift card by channel patron Drew Dahmer. Drew Dahmer! So, I've had this like a month, and I've watched, it's got two movies on one disc, and I have watched them. I'm gonna mess with this while I'm talking. I've watched, I have watched them like I don't know how many times each. That's good. And I still haven't done this video, so I feel slack. A lot of it is because I'll be honest, I have problems at times with some foreign movies where I'm not like 100% familiar with all of the personnel, and their names, in their native language. And so I don't want to make a fool of myself. It takes me a long time to get familiar with those elements of certain movies. I mean, some fall into place fast, like some actors, directors, crew members, cast members I can identify pretty easily because I have a hell of a memory here. But at the same time, there are movies. Well, I mean, this not just Japanese, but this is Japanese. By the way, this is going to be a Japanese movie, two Japanese movies for the price of one. Russian movies, I'm kind of like that. There's a few languages where I'm not as readily, you know. So I do better than some people and a lot worse than a lot of other people. So, and I'm ashamed because this is one of my favorite Japanese directors. His name's Yasuzo Masumura. I'm trying to pronounce it as close to the Japanese pronunciation as possible with my very limited Anglo skill, tongue and palate here. I was going to say skill, but that's true. I mean, my skill with this stuff is very limited. So bear with me. So, first off, I want to talk about, because I had to bring up some materials that'll help me out, even though I've seen these movies like 80 million times. Okay, so what this is, here we go. I've got to get my thing set up so I can read here. Good. I need this fan, man. It is really humid in Charlotte, as usual, going into June. So this awesome item is the one I purchased with Drew's largesse. Black test car on Arrow Video. They're known for the little rainbow strip here. That indicates the high quality they put into their items. I'm being serious, kind of. This includes Black Test Car and a follow-up movie of sorts called The Black Report. At least that's the name now it's commonly known by. We'll get to that in a minute. Black Test Car is a black and white film from 1962. Black Report is also black and white, so very fitting. They both are Japanese noir movies. I don't know if you guys have seen many Japanese noir movies or have compared them with American noir movies. They come from generally a slightly later era, and they're generally somewhat better, to me anyway. I love American noir. The quality of them is so erratic, though. You have to, it's kind of like you watch a lot of them, you wade through a lot of them, and then there are peaks and valleys, much like giallos, very much like spaghetti westerns. And to a different extent, because there's different subgenres that play blaxploitation movies, but me, I pretty much I've loved every blaxploitation movie I've ever seen, except maybe two, and I've seen about 200. So maybe I'm weird, but those encompass different subgenres. And people argue over what constitutes a blaxploitation film, what constitutes a giallo, and even a spaghetti western, which is a little crazy because that's pretty straight up. But there's always weird outliers like Spanish giallos and Spanish spaghetti westerns. There's a Greek giallo. I can't remember the name of it. So, it just depends. I think a lot of it is designated by the style of the movie, the genre, the subject matter, the tropes used in it, and also the time period when it was prevalent. Like there were Jalos, there are Jalos after 1982, of course, but I don't. And I've seen several, but I don't usually count most of them with my Jalo list. I've seen, I think at last count, like 180 Jalos. So there's quite a few that I leave off that other people might toss on there because I feel like 1982 was kind of, to me personally, like an arbitrary cutoff date of sorts, like an expiration date of the period that made it special, that made it a Giallo in the feel, and that's still a wide range of tones within one genre or subgenre. Um, but anyway, Japanese noir, I haven't studied as diligently as Giallos or seen as many, but there are a few directors I like. Masumura's done some, and of course, Seiji Suzuki, I think, is probably one of the kings of that particular field. His movies, Branded to Kill and Tokyo Drifter, are kind of, archetypes, I guess, or high points of that cycle. I really like I really like the Yakuza movies. I really like the kind of downbeat ending a lot of them has, where you have kind of a bedraggled hero, kind of just sighing in resignation that his life's probably worth nothing or is over, and then either he wanders down a hallway and it gets dark, or he gets shot, or something happens like that. But there's always this feeling of existential trauma in the last couple of frames. So in this case, it's an even more specialized subgenre. It's it's industrial espionage. So we have seen this in Masumura's brilliant 1958 movie called Giants and Toys, which I still have yet to upgrade to Blu-ray. If someone wants to help me out, I will gladly accept a copy and make you a channel patron. By the way, please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Share if you'd like. Comment if you want. Go easy. I'm kind of sensitive. So, Giants and Toys is just like people compare it, like contemporary critics. Okay, contemporary critics really would mean critics of it when it was first released. Okay, the modern day critics, they tend to just do things like liken it, especially Frank Tashlin. And I'm not an expert on American melodrama. I will go ahead and admit it. I have some older film friends who run many circles around me on that, like Tim McLean and Bill White, Robert Monell. They could just make. I'm a joke compared to them, knowledge wise. I mean, I love movies that work in that vein for me on a personal level. Douglas Sirk's movies have tended to grab me that way, a few of them, and quite a bit actually. But I got into Douglas Sirk kind of. My gateway drug to Douglas Sirk was Rainer Werner Fassbinder, one of my top 10 favorite directors, and in my personal opinion, one of the greatest that's ever walked the earth. But anyway, so there's kind of split off points of American melodrama where you have the melodrama like Sirk, which is very dramatic and weighty and soap opera-esque, very stylized. But you've got like a lot of parodies and whimsical strains running through it, and a lot of these other kind of movies that really are more like mainstream films. And then there's films kind of that branch off of that even. I don't know how I'd classify them. I guess they're comedies like Sweet Smell of Success or something. But Frank Tashlin is a guy who apparently works in that venue, that kind of weird liminal space, and so I've never seen any of his movies that I'm aware of. So I can't comment on the intense comparisons. But I have seen clips from a few Frank Tashlin movies and similar movies, and I will say, I believe for that era, 1958, for a movie from Japan in color, with high production values, probably very low budget, Giants and Toys is like a landmark, like a monument of brilliance. It's just like it's pretty untouchable to me personally, as a satire on consumerism during the age when it was starting to hit its peak. It's kind of like when you had a movie like Eli Kazan's Facing the Crowd, which I once reviewed for this channel, 1957. I mean, that was an early film savagely parodying cult of personality and the media, um, and was so ahead of the curve. You know, it just nailed it. Giants and Toys is kind of like that. I mean, it takes an absurd concept. These two companies that each make caramel candies, and they ruthlessly compete to try to figure out how to outdo each other. So, Like Test Car is kind of like that, but it's about cars. So, you know, there's these two rival businesses that are trying to outdo each other. And one is called the Tiger Motor Car Company, and one is called the Yamato Company. And there is a new Tiger car called the Pioneer. And it's like supposed to be the hip, cool, the coolest looking, best running, smoothest, sports car you can get in Japan. And basically, it's like if you don't have a Pioneer, you're just nothing. You're nothing. You're nobody. You got to have a Pioneer, baby. So it definitely catches that. You know, they're always trying to think of ad campaigns and slogans. It's not as intensive and baroque the way Giants and Toys is. It's more stark and stripped down, and it's a lot more, like I said, it's more of a Japanese noir movie. But it still has that. It's more of a dark movie, really, than Giants and Toys. It kind of has this savage, really downbeat, very noir underpinning or overpinning, maybe, if that's a word, of like these people will really do anything just to get the fucking Pioneer car out before Yamato, just to make that big sale, like the opening week and hit the numbers on the boards, and all this crass consumer corporate bullshit that we usually, especially in that era, and well, now today it's even worse, associate with the American empire. But this is Japan, and after World War II, America blasted Japan, and then they helped them rebuild. And Japan, absorbed this huge amount of Americanisms into their culture, from the way they dressed to the way they run their businesses, their style, their pop culture. And this is a good example. This is American mass consumerism taken to its insanest lengths in Japan, in a different, wholly different era and country than America. So, well, same era, but you know what I mean, different country. So there's a few major characters. There's this one executive, and I always forget this guy's name, so I'm gonna just cheat here real quick. And I feel really ashamed because Black Test Car I watched a lot when I had it on DVD. It was really one of my favorites. I didn't like it as much as Giants and Toys, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was different in that it was black and white and it was noir. So there's a guy in this. He is like the top executive guy, and he is really vile and evil. And he kind of persuades this younger cat, who's an up and coming guy, to basically do anything to get the goods on the car. So he gets his girlfriend, even to sleep with the guy, the other company, to get information about it. And it's pretty humiliating. I mean, it's pretty much this guy, younger guy, like sells his soul, and the boss guy is so evil, and he has these really strong features. He's a very angular face, and he's very imposing, which is funny because in the movie that I'm going to review after this, that he's in, he's very different. So he's got some range as an actor. So the girlfriend is played by Junko Kanno, who is just a stunner, who was in a lot of Japanese movies from this period. There's one well-known one called Odd Obsession, which I have yet to see, unfortunately. But Masumura definitely loved her, and the camera loves her. She's just gorgeous. And she plays this character named Moscow, and she's the girlfriend. And she basically is kind of also like she's kind of like the critique of all the other characters. Like, all these male characters that are like trying to outdo each other and rough each other up and ruin each other over these fucking cars. And she's like, you know, I'm a woman, I don't care about this. Not because she's a woman, she doesn't care about cars. Though back then that seemed to be more of a stereotype and maybe a truth. I don't know. I don't care about cars and I'm male, but uh, she basically just wants to marry that guy, you know, and have a simple life. She doesn't have to be super wealthy. Um, but it takes her the whole damn movie to convince him of this. And in the very end, they kind of salvage their spoiler. They kind of salvage their relationship, sort of just barely, on a slightly optimistic but ambiguous note. You know, uh, yeah. I mean, you want them to. Well, you kind of want them to, even though you kind of think he's an idiot. But, you know, she's been right, and she does love him. So, what's better for her? I mean, if it was a current story, you would say the woman, her victory would be to walk away from this guy and empower herself. In this case, I think her victory of her character in this context is considered that she was right all along. So the guy really can either come crawling back to her or he can, you know, go fuck himself to her. And I think he definitely chooses to go crawling back too. So, and along the line, there's all kinds of, you know, exciting scenes, you know, car making and driving and metal and steel and industry. You know, the pacing is good, the editing's quick, and there's some absurd things where one guy gets on the corner of the building facing the Tiger Company, and he stands on a car with a loudspeaker megaphone, saying that he was injured in an accident by one of their cars because it wasn't made ready, it wasn't made correctly, safely because they rushed it to market. And there was a little bit of truth to that. That becomes a big conflict toward the end. And what you know, basically you have these guys that huddle into this room making all these schemes, and it finally, not finally, early on, it kind of dawns on them that, okay, so we only have a very limited amount of people who know these plans. So how is this getting out? So there must be a spy or spies among us. So that's why it starts to get kind of nasty and cutthroat. And it ends up like the guy who seems like the most mellow, kind guy in the bunch is the one who sold everybody out. And of course, they humiliate and, you know, kind of degrade him at the end. The main guy, the main character, the villain, again, whose name I wish I could remember. I think it's Jiro Tamiya. I could be wrong though. I guess it could be this other actor playing that character. Um, is this going to help me any? Maybe. Onada. No, it's Hideo Takamatsu. Later in The Last Emperor. Okay, so yeah, this guy, he heads a secretive task force to root out Yamato's spy, find out what they can about the competitor's familiar-looking new model. So, yeah, the most mild-mannered guy ends up being the one who let the secrets out, and so, you know, Moscow didn't need to sleep with that guy after all. And, but Onada, that's the character I'm thinking of, the actor. Who did I say his name was? Hideo Takamatsu. I have a character named Koro Takamatsu. I made him in 1987. He was a Japanese guitar player. So let's do my story, Flicker Street. So Nada, yeah, I mean, he's like tormenting this guy and threatening to torture him, trying to kill him. And this guy is played by the actor, and I don't remember his name, so you'll hate me for this. He is the star of a movie, the most well-known movie by our director here. At least I think probably his most well-known movie in the West. His horror film Blind Beast, aka Moju from 1968. I have reviewed that for this channel. Okay, and this actor, I was correct in my head, Eiji Funakashi, and he does play the blind masseur slash sculptor who's kind of a bit mad, who kidnaps the model in Blind Beast, and it just goes to extreme levels. I have that on Blu-ray. I reviewed that on a Blu-ray on a double feature with Hunting Ground by Jorge Grau. So, if you can get through those two movies one after the other, you have a strong constitution. So, Eiji Funakashi plays this he's like the fall guy. I mean, and he didn't think things were going to get out of hand. So those are kind of the strains of where it ends up. Is he's kind of ruined, and he doesn't really deserve it. He's a totally different character than he is in Blind Beast. But one similarity he has, first of all, his character is sighted, unlike in Blind Beast, hence Blind Beast. And so he doesn't have this kind of off look he's using to be blind, play a blind man, but his eyes look very sad, and he seems like a pathetic character. I mean, a likable guy. So they've ruined him, and the young hotshot exec of wannabe is picking up the pieces of his relationship with Junko Kano, and that's kind of where it ends. So it's just it's kind of like a mystery film. Also, who done it? In this case, who are the spies? It's a spy film, but it's not like James Bond spy film. It's like a real spy film where you don't actually know who the spy is, where everything's kind of behind the scenes. Whereas in James Bond, the guy's like supposed to be a spy, which implies secretiveness, and yet he's jumping around shooting people, and everybody knows his name is James Bond. I never could figure out that, and I don't know if I'm sure Ian Fleming had figured it out, but based on some of the movies, James Bond movies, I'm not sure if they really care. It's very humid in Charlotte, so I'm drinking ice water. So, also on this Blu-ray is Black Report. So, this movie was so popular, I guess, in this kind of movie, this Japanese noir / industrial espionage deal. Then Masumura made some other ones along the same lines. And I want to tell you about this next one because it also is on this DVD. Now, the trick is, can I find the additional information that I wanted to share with you about it? Yep, I can. So it's from the following year, also black and white, and they're calling it the Black Report at this point. And the original translated name seems to be Black Statement Book, and it's of the Black series, and much is made of that in the extras on this. There is a critical appreciation by Jonathan Rosenbaum, who is a longtime awesome critic. He co-wrote that awesome book Midnight Movies, one with the Racerhead on the cover, which changed a lot of our lives in the 80s and 90s. But he does a really good one where he voices over kind of a video essay, and he touches on that, the spawn of Black Test Report, the Black films, and the major one that Masumura did next, which was the Black Report, or Black Statement Book. Original title, Kuro no Hokokusho, 1963. So this one also has the guy who plays Onada, Hideo Takamatsu. Now he's kind of a good guy in this one. I mean, he's a prosecutor, and there's a murder mystery, and the plot's kind of conventional. I mean, it's really not so much industrial espionage. I mean, the guy who dies is like a wealthy magnate. He had a somewhat younger wife who seems to be having an affair with this other young cat named Hitomi, and Hitomi is kind of a weaselly character, and you're not sure if he's guilty or not because he's so kind of unlikable and repugnant. Well, to me anyway. He's just very cocky, like, you'll never catch me even if I did it, or you'll never prove I did it. He doesn't say those things, but he sneers and scoffs at our main characters. There's the lawyer, I think that's the character named Akira Kido, and the wife is fooling around with Hitomi, or is she? We don't know if some people's testimony are completely lies, and it looks like Hitomi will be charged with the crime. Then it looks like he's going to get off. So if he didn't kill this old guy for his loot, who did? The wife seems like a likely one who benefits from the crime. And it gets unbearably complicated because the dead guy has a mistress, also played by Junko Kanno, looking as glorious as ever. Her character's name Ayako Toki, and Ayako is a pretty inscrutable character. Her motives are very hard to fathom, and she flips in a major way, uh, against the prosecution late in the game, which kind of freaks out Akiro, the lawyer, who seems to be there. They hint a lot through the body language and delivery that there's a sexual attraction either between them or in him for her, which is frustrating the fuck out of him, to where he finally corners her in this hallway after she's given a testimony that's completely the reverse of what she did her deposition with, which they built a lot of their case on. And he's like, "Tell me the truth. Do it. And he's about to slap her, but you can tell he's like really thinks she's really hot. And I mean, she is, but I mean, there's no need to get out of control. So some older guy calms him down and stops him from making a fatal error there, and to his reputation. But she feels bad about it, and she agrees to tell the truth under certain conditions. And the end is kind of a surprise. It's not particularly incredible or memorable. The movie kind of peters out after all that drama. That doesn't mean it's not worth watching or owning. It's just I watched it twice, and I didn't take away a lot from the ending either time. It was kind of like justice was not served. Hitomi and the wife both kind of got away with everything, and yet there was going to be a retrial, or it was going to admit more evidence. But by this time, Akira he misses his big promotion. He was going to go to Tokyo and work at a better firm, and he obviously fumbles the ball with Junko Kanno as his love interest. So it's bittersweet, but his buddy, the head prosecutor played by Hideo Takamatsu, who played the repugnant Onada, the corporate shark in Black Teskar, is so kind as the prosecutor, and he's like, "It's okay, buddy, we'll take care of them for you, and have fun in whatever prefecture we're shipping you off to instead of the squishy job in Tokyo." So this Blu-ray is immaculately beautiful, of course. How could it not be? And it's Arrow, and it's Yasuzo Masumura. And it's in 2K, it's uncompressed, Japanese mono audio, newly retranslated English subtitles in both films, the Jonathan Rosenbaum video essay I mentioned, and trailers for both films, image galleries for both films, and reversible sleeve art featuring new artwork. So, I thought about this. It's like both sides have new artwork. And when I did the unboxing of this, I made this terrible error. See, this is not an original poster. This is the new artwork by Tony Stella. And then I said this was an alternate older poster for Black Teskar, when plainly it's the Black Report, and it's also by Tony Stella. But I love this poster anyway. And this Junko Kanno being morally ambiguous and alluring. So, in this booklet here, this is the most well-known Black Teskar original poster, even though they made up a totally different cover for the now out of print Phantom DVD release. So anyway, this is not Masumura at his absolute sharpest and finest, but if you watch both films, you'll definitely have a great experience. And I'm waiting. Most of the great ones either now are, well, the ones I know as the great ones, and most of the ones that Phantom put out. They put out 6 of his titles on DVD in the early 2000s. All 4 of them have come out on Blu-ray, and then some of his other movies, like Irizumi, Arrow is also putting out. I don't know if they're going to do like some of his real highly regarded ones, like A Wife Confesses, or some of his late career ones that are very well loved. But they've done Blind Beast, they've done this one, Black Teskar, they've done Giants and Toys, they've done Irizumi, and they've done another of those Phantom ones. And my brain has gone completely zonk. But they also are doing, oh yeah, here it is. it either hasn't come out or it's about to come out. And I remember it because I'm selling the DVD for a lot of money because it's very rare. So I've been trying to sell it for about $50, $55. That seems to be the going price. So the Blu-ray of it's coming out. It's called Red Angel, and it is the most bleak, downbeat war movie I've ever seen in my life. I could only watch it once. That doesn't mean I don't want to own it on Blu-ray and watch it again, torment myself further. But I mean, it's an incredible movie. It's just, it's just in that range of Johnny Got His Gun kind of hopelessness. Um, so it's kind of movie that would not be well liked by people who are supporting the current war going on that the media's hyping. And heading us toward more wars, more warfare in more countries that we don't need to be in. But this was a World War II veteran story, and but from the Japanese point of view, and it's mainly a nurse, the Red Angel. She's just a very kind, compassionate nurse who tries to help these wounded guys. Some of them too, really wild extremes. I mean, just maybe, and that's one reason it's so downbeat and sad. Anyway, that's coming out on Blu-ray through Arrow, and then, but I don't know about Afraid to Die, which is one of my favorites. It's a 1960 Japanese noir slash Yakuza, but in color, with Yukio Mishima, the famous writer who did Sailor, who fell from grace with the sea, and Sun and Steel, and a bunch of other wild stuff. And he was just a wild guy. His real death is really more fascinating, really, than most of his stories. And he made a fascinating short film called Patriotism or Right of Love and Death, which presages, I guess, what he actually did, which is his obsession with Japanese nationalism and militarism and the old samurai thing of killing yourself ritualistically, either because you've been dishonored, you've dishonored your house or your master or your whatever, your family, or you want to avoid dishonor or maybe avoid capture. I don't know. But it's not a cowardly way to them. To them, it's like an honor and a big thing. So Mishima was obsessed with it. It's called Harakiri. I reviewed the movie Harakiri too with Tetsuya Nakadai, and that portrays a really grim picture of it during the samurai era, during the Edo period and of Japan. And that movie is it's very critical of the samurai code and of Harakiri as an answer to anything. Harakiri is also known as seppuku, the ritual suicide. And the first time I encountered it was, my dad used to talk about Japanese soldiers committing harikiri, he called it, during World War II. And, there was an actor back then named Harry Carey. I don't know if my dad was trying to be funny or racist or topical or all or none of the above. I'm not sure. But Mishima did it in real life, publicly. So, wow, yeah. And there's a great movie about him and all of that by Paul Schrader called Mishima, A Life in Four Chapters, which alternates between his transformation as he goes down this path I've been talking about towards his end, and then with reenactments of some of his stories. He was a huge novelist. Anyway, he acted a little bit. As I said, he had made a film later on, Patriotism. But he plays this down on his luck, kind of almost nerdy Yakuza guy. It's an awesome movie, though. I love it. Afraid to Die. So I'm selling that, I think, for about $70 or $80 because it's exceedingly rare. But I'm hoping they'll put it out on Blu-ray. I'm hoping that they do it after I sell mine, so my value won't go down. But anyway, if you're interested in, I've got these Masumuras. I've got Black Test Car on DVD. I just marked it down to $10. It's a hell of a bargain. But anyway, I appreciate Drew helping me add to my collection. This is only my second Masumura on Blue after Blind Beast, so I'm very happy to have that in the permanent library over here. So that's it, man. I've been putting this off for like a month. So that wasn't so hard, was it? Um, I think Joko Kano was the key to it. So anyway, I'll be back soon. I have some more streaming stuff I want to talk about, and of course, I've got the Funky Forest collection review coming up. It may be a week or two, but I have made my way through all the discs and extras. I'm gonna give it one more go. I've watched, it has two movies in it, and I've watched each of them at least three times. But the ending of the Warped Forest, the latter of the two movies in the set, I've only made it all the way to the end and had it really register with me once. And I had it playing while I was corresponding with channel patron Tim Tolbert, and I had taken some of my nerve pain medicine, which sometimes elevates my moods like in a weird way, depending on my sleep and what I'm eating and interaction with my Prozac and stuff. Uh, so sometimes I get really hyper, and then sometimes when I get hyper focused on certain things, I start to feel a little high. Part of that's also my sleep apnea is fucking with my brain too. I get in that same state when I start to nod off in that, and I'm right between consciousness and unconsciousness, which I find fascinating because I have lucid dreaming. But back on track, hopefully. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, anyway, I started to feel we were talking and it was getting real intense, but I was watching this movie and the images and what was happening, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to go in that direction. So, Warped Forest, you think it's just kind of this weird, fun kind of riff on Funky Forest, like a spin off, a lot of absurdism and surrealism, and just jaw dropping stuff, but it ends up getting pretty profound. I thought maybe that was the mental state I was in then, but it really hit me hard. So I'm going to watch it one more time all the way through to the end before I do this review, so I'll be sure of how I'm trying to describe it. So that'll be coming up, and Murder in a Blue World, I did the unboxing of that, so I'll get around to reviewing that one eventually too. I appreciate all the subscriptions and the support. My subscribers, I've really gained a lot of subscribers. I don't know who all of y'all are. Sometimes I get notifications with a name, but the last few I haven't. And I gained quite a few in the last week. And then just today I lost two, but hey, my net gain is still high. And then several of my videos are doing really well, better than my old videos used to do. Consistently, my blue review videos, with maybe one exception, have all had a lot of views, vastly more than before. And two of them have hit record views for me, to where I'm able to come up in a search on one of them pretty easily if someone searched for this item. And that's Fingers. My review of Fingers now has like 2,200 views. Still only has 8 likes. Everyone forgets to hit the like button. But yeah, it's 2,200 views and still going. It's gaining daily, dozens. And right behind it is my Fulci movie review, Don't Torture Duckling. It has like 1,200 as of today. So I'm really happy. So check those out if you haven't seen them. Maybe I'll put a link to them. I don't know. But I'll put the usual links here at the end, and I'll figure it out afterwards. One side will be subscribed to me. One side will be the last video prior to this, and the other side will, and under the next video coming, which I'll put on after the shot. So anyway, yeah, click on those symbols that should be here right about now, and take care of yourselves. Thanks a lot.